June 12, 2025, Ahmedabad, India, 1:38 in the afternoon. A Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, one of the most advanced commercial aircraft ever built, lifts off into a clear blue sky. A few seconds later, during the initial climb phase, it crashes. What happened in those few seconds, between a perfectly routine takeoff and a catastrophe that killed 260 people, is one of the most disturbing mysteries in modern aviation. This is the story of Air India Flight 171. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner is not just any aircraft. When it entered service in 2011, it was hailed as a revolution, the first commercial airliner built primarily from lightweight carbon fiber composites instead of aluminium. Its GEnx engines are among the quietest and most fuel-efficient ever made. The 787 was supposed to represent everything Boeing could do right. The plane at the center of our story, registered VTANB, was a Boeing 787-8 delivered to Air India in January 2014. By June 2025, it had logged more than 41,000 flight hours and over 7,000 takeoff and landing cycles. A seasoned aircraft, its last major maintenance check was completed on schedule. Its airworthiness review certificate had been renewed just 3 weeks earlier, on May 22, 2025. On paper, this plane was ready to fly. Ahmedabad is Gujarat's largest city, a metropolis of over 5 million people. The Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport is a busy hub handling thousands of passengers a day. It has one main runway, 0523. That morning, aircraft would be departing from runway 23, a 3,505-meter strip of asphalt, oriented towards the southwest. At the far end of the runway, just beyond the perimeter wall, lies one of the most densely populated parts of the city, Meghani Nagar. In there, barely 1.7 kilometers from the departure end of runway 23 sits the BJ Medical College campus. In its student hostel and canteen, hundreds of young doctors live and study. On this particular afternoon, many of them are having lunch. They have no idea what is coming. In command of Flight 171 is Captain Sumit Sabharwal, 56 years old, an ATPL license holder with 15,638 flight hours. Over 8,500 of those hours are on the Boeing 787. He is a quiet, methodical man, known among colleagues for his mentorship and his meticulous approach to every procedure. To his right sits First Officer Clive Kunder, 32 years old, with 3,403 total hours and 1,128 on the Dreamliner. He trained in the United States at 19, earned his commercial license, and returned to India to join Air India. Both pilots had arrived in Ahmedabad the previous day. Both had adequate rest. Both passed their mandatory pre-flight breath analyzer tests at 11:55 a.m. local time. For this flight, First Officer Kunder would be the pilot flying. The one at the controls, Captain Sabharwal, would be pilot monitoring, watching the instruments, managing checklists, calling out speeds. It is a familiar arrangement, a routine flight. Neither man has any reason to think this day would be different from any other. Flight AI-171 is one of just 5 weekly services linking Ahmedabad directly to London Gatwick. On board today are 230 passengers, 15 in business class, 215 in economy, including Indian, British, Canadian, and Portuguese nationals among them. There are families, students, businessmen, and people making their way home. But hours before these passengers boarded, someone else had been on this very aircraft and noticed something troubling. Akash Vatsa, an aviation enthusiast, had arrived in Ahmedabad earlier that morning on the same aircraft, operating an earlier domestic flight from Delhi. After disembarking, he posted a message on social media platform X, formerly Twitter, that would later go viral. He wrote, "I was on the same flight 2 hours before it took off from Ahmedabad. Noticed unusual things in the place. He mentioned that the condition of the aircraft was poor. The air conditioning system was not working properly. The in-flight entertainment system, including screens and remotes, were malfunctioning. And there was something else. The previous flight crew operating VTANB had filed a pilot defect report, a PDR entry, noting a status message called Stab Pose XDCR, a stabilizer position transducer warning indicating a fault or invalid reading from the stabilizer position sensor, which is crucial for proper pitch control and safe flight handling. Ground engineers troubleshot the issue and cleared the aircraft for flight. Malfunctioning cabin systems and a suspect air conditioning unit are not, on their own, signs of a plane about to crash. But in the context of what came next, these clues would feel like a ghost story. The weather was clear and sunny. The temperature was 36–37 degrees Celsius. Visibility at 6 kilometers, winds from 240 degrees at just 6 knots. By most measures, a perfect day for flying. But there is a physics problem lurking behind that beautiful sky. Temperature matters enormously to an aircraft. In hot conditions, air becomes thinner. There are fewer air molecules available to generate lift over the wings. The engines have less oxygen to combust. The result is a simple, brutal fact. A heavier aircraft on a hot day needs more runway to reach takeoff speed. And today, Flight 171 is heavy. The aircraft is carrying 54,200 kilograms of fuel for the 9-hour flight to London. Total takeoff weight, 213,401 kilograms, within the maximum limit of 218,183 kilograms, but very close to it. When the crew calculates the V-speeds, the critical velocity thresholds for this takeoff, the numbers reflect these demands. V1, the decision speed, is 153 knots. VR, the rotation speed, is 155 knots. V2, the takeoff safety speed, is 162 knots. The aircraft pushes back at 7:48 UTC. At 7:49 AM UTC, the crew confirms with air traffic control that they will need the full length of runway 23, every one of those 3,505 meters. The aircraft taxis via taxiway Romeo 4, backtracking the full length of runway 23 to line up at the threshold. Takeoff clearance is issued at 8:07 and 33 seconds UTC. 4 seconds later, First Officer Kunda advances the thrust levers. Flight AI-171 begins to roll. The takeoff roll begins at 8:07:37 UTC. Both GE GenX engines spool up to full takeoff thrust, a combined output powerful enough to accelerate over 200 tons of aircraft down a runway. The before takeoff checklist has been completed. Flaps are set to 5 degrees, standard configuration for a Dreamliner takeoff, and later confirmed by evidence recovered from the wreckage. 56 seconds into the roll, at 8 hours 8 minutes and 33 seconds UTC, Flight 171 reaches V1, 153 knots. This is the point of no return. There is no longer enough runway to stop safely. The crew is committed to takeoff. 2 seconds later, at 155 knots, First Officer Kunda pulls back on the control column. The nose lifts. This is VR, rotation speed. Seconds after that, the main landing gear sensors transition from ground mode to air mode. Flight 171 is airborne. The aircraft continues to climb. 3 seconds pass normally. The speed is rising. At 8:42 UTC, 13 seconds after liftoff, Flight 171 reaches its maximum recorded airspeed of 180 knots. Then, everything goes wrong. At the very moment Flight 171 reaches 180 knots, both fuel control switches, Engine 1 and Engine 2, transition from the run position to cutoff. One switch, then the other. 1 second apart. To understand why this is catastrophic, you need to understand what those switches do. They control the flow of jet fuel to each engine. In the run position, fuel flows. In the cutoff position, fuel stops. The engines die. These switches are not easy to move by accident. They are spring-loaded and must be physically pinched and lifted against spring pressure before they can be moved. There are raised guard panels around them to prevent accidental contact. Moving both switches within 1 second of each other would require deliberate, sequential physical action. One more detail. The throttle control module on this aircraft had been replaced twice, in 2019 and again in 2023. No defects related to the fuel control switches had been reported since 2023. And the FAA had issued a Special Airworthiness Information Bulletin, SAIB number NM1833, back in December 2018, warning operators that on certain Boeing models, the fuel control switch locking feature could be disengaged. The bulletin was advisory, not mandatory. Air India did not carry out the suggested inspection. The moment the switches move to cutoff, the engines begin to spool down. Inside those engines, the fire goes out. The thrust collapses. In the cockpit, the black box captures a chilling exchange. One pilot asks the other,
"Why did you cut off?"
The other replies,
"I did not do it."
Two pilots, two switches, one denial, and an aircraft losing altitude over one of the most densely populated neighborhoods in Ahmedabad. At 8847 UTC, just 5 seconds after the fuel switches moved, something happens that would later confirm the scale of the disaster to every aviation expert who saw the footage. A small propeller-like device deploys from the underside of the aircraft. It is called the Ram Air Turbine, or RAT. The RAT is an emergency system. It is a last resort. Tucked away in the aircraft's belly, it only deploys automatically when the aircraft has lost all primary power. Both engines and all 4 electrical generators have failed simultaneously. When it extends into the airstream, the rushing air spins its blades, which drive a small hydraulic pump and a generator. This provides bare minimum power to the most essential flight systems, basic hydraulics to steer the aircraft, and emergency electrical supply. Witnesses on the ground heard a loud bang at this moment. That could be the sound of the RAT deploying. Inside the cabin, green and white lights began flickering. Vishwas Kumar Ramesh, seated in 11A, the sole survivor of the crash, would later tell reporters, "The aircraft felt like it became stuck in mid-air within a few seconds of takeoff. Green and white lights flashed. The plane struck a medical college hostel in a residential area." The flickering was the aircraft's electrical system failing over to emergency battery and RAT power. The main cabin lighting was gone. Dim emergency illumination took over. An elderly resident near the crash site would tell investigators, "The plane flew right over my house and suddenly its sound just stopped. That doesn't happen with other flights." Also missing from the aircraft's post-liftoff sequence, the landing gear never retracted. Under normal circumstances, once the aircraft establishes a positive rate of climb, the pilot monitoring calls "gear up," and the gear is raised to reduce drag. But Flight 171 never established a positive rate of climb. The engines were already dying when the gear needed to come up. There was no call to make. The landing gear stayed extended. At 8852 UTC, 10 seconds after the switches went to cutoff, Engine 1's fuel switch is moved back to run. The engine's FA deck, its full authority digital engine control, initiates an automatic relight sequence. Ignition fires, fuel re-enters the combustion chamber. Engine 1 begins to respond. Its core deceleration slows. Temperatures rise. 4 seconds later, Engine 2's switch also returns to run. But Engine 2 is further gone. The FADEC attempts multiple relight cycles, introducing fuel repeatedly, but the engine cannot climb back to thrust. The aircraft is already too low, too slow, too close to the ground. At 895 UTC, Captain Sabharwal transmits the Mayday call. Air traffic control asks for the call sign. There is no response. Through the tower windows, the controller watches a fireball rise from just beyond the airport boundary, from engines off to impact, approximately 30 seconds. As Flight 171 crosses the airport perimeter wall, it is already losing altitude. It drifts slightly to the left of its original heading, descending at what investigators estimate was around 150 knots, still fast, still driven by the momentum of the takeoff roll and the partial relight of Engine 1. The nose remains pitched up at approximately 8 degrees. The pilots are still pulling back on the control column, still fighting, still trying to climb, but the physics will not allow it. Inside the BJ Medical College canteen, 200 meters north of the hostel building, students are eating lunch. In the hostel rooms, resident doctors are resting between shifts. None of them hear the aircraft until it is almost on top of them. The first contact occurs at 8:10 UTC, as the aircraft clips a row of trees inside an adjacent Army Medical Corps compound, followed immediately by the nose landing gear striking an incineration chimney. The chimney tears away the nose landing gear. The fuselage, still largely intact, continues forward at speed. Seconds later, the right side of the fuselage strikes the northeast wall of what investigators designate Building A, the student canteen block. The impact is catastrophic. The vertical stabilizer, the tail fin, separates instantly and is flung 200 feet away. The tail section, containing the aft flight recorder and the emergency locator transmitter, embeds in the northeast wall. The ELT never activates. The right wing clips the roof of the adjacent Building B. The right engine, still attached, strikes a solid concrete water tank on Building A's rooftop. The engine mounts fail and the engine collides with the tank. The right side of the aircraft is now largely gone. What remains of the fuselage continues moving forward. The left main landing gear and left wing strike the main wall of Building C, the student dormitory. Students inside hear an explosion and feel the building shudder. Some leap from second and third floor windows to escape. The left engine is flung forward to the ground level of Building D, where it starts a fire that collapses a supporting column. Fuselage sections, wings, and fuel continue forward across Buildings E and F, igniting everything. The aircraft's 54,000 kilogram fuel load, barely touched after the short climb, ensures the fireball is immense. The entire crash sequence, from first contact with the trees to the last identifiable piece of wreckage, takes less than 2.5 seconds. Of the 242 people on board Flight AI-171, 230 passengers and 12 crew, exactly one survives. Vishwaskumar Ramesh, 40, a British national of Indian origin, traveling with his brother Ajay to London Gatwick. He is in seat 11A, adjacent to an emergency exit door. When the aircraft comes to rest, that section of fuselage has hit the ground directly rather than a building's rooftop. Through the chaos and flames and screaming, Ramesh sees the emergency exit. He goes for it. He walks out of the rubble, covered in blood, injured but alive. He later says, "I don't know how I survived. I saw people dying in front of my eyes. The air hostesses, 2 people near me. I walked out of the rubble. On the ground, 19 more people are killed. 67 are injured, many seriously. Total lives lost, 260. It is the deadliest aviation disaster in a decade. India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau launches its investigation immediately. 5 officers, including the Director General, arrive in Ahmedabad on the day of the crash. 3 more from the DGCA's Air Safety Directorate follow from Mumbai. The NTSB sends an accredited representative from the United States, accompanied by technical advisors from Boeing, GE, and the FAA. The UK's AAIB sends a team as well. The key evidence lies in the 2 enhanced airborne flight recorders, the black boxes. The Boeing 787 carries one in the tail and one forward in the fuselage. The aft recorder, embedded in Building A's wall, has been destroyed by heat and impact. Its data is unrecoverable. The forward recorder, found 4 days after the crash in the debris field near Building F, has survived, barely. Burned, soot-covered, its connector partially melted, but the memory module inside is intact. Here, investigators face an obstacle. To download data from the damaged recorder, they need an identical working unit, called a golden chassis, to house the memory module. But the AAIB does not possess a golden chassis for the type. They must import one from the NTSB in the United States. It arrives on June 23rd. The download is completed the following day. The recovered data contains approximately 49 hours of flight information from 6 flights, including the final one. The cockpit voice recorder captures 2 hours of audio, including the full event, and what it reveals sends shockwaves through the aviation world. At the heart of this investigation is a single, defining question. What caused those 2 fuel control switches to move to the cutoff position, simultaneously cutting power to both engines at the worst possible moment, just seconds after liftoff? Investigators are considering a few possibilities. The first, A software system called the Thrust Control Malfunction Accommodation, or TCMA, automatically commanded the shutoff. The TCMA is a safeguard designed to reduce engine thrust if it detects runaway power on the ground. It has triggered falsely before. In 2019, an all-Nippon Airways 787 approaching Osaka experienced a dual-engine flameout when the TCMA misread the aircraft's position. A software glitch made the system think the jet was on the ground. The aircraft had to be towed off the runway. No injuries. But the TCMA theory faces a fatal flaw in the Air India case. The TCMA does not operate through the cockpit fuel switches at all. It works by directly closing a shutoff valve deep inside the engine, one that cannot be reopened by the pilots and requires maintenance to reset. If TCMA had triggered, the engines could not have restarted mid-flight. Flight 171's engines did partially relight. The TCMA is eliminated. The second possibility, the switch is moved by accident, but with 3 levels of physical protection, spring loading, raised guards, and mechanical stops, and given that both switches moved within a single second of each other, this is considered extremely unlikely. You cannot brush these switches on the way to reaching for something else. Not both of them. Not in 1 second. Which leaves the most troubling theory: intentional human input. The preliminary report, released on July 12 by the AAIB, states only that the switches transitioned from run to cutoff, and that both pilots denied doing so to each other. But sources close to the investigation, cited by the Wall Street Journal, go further. They note that as the pilot flying, First Officer Kunda would have been fully occupied with the climb-out at the moment of the event. Captain Sabharwal, as pilot monitoring, would have had his hands free. They tried to push the blame of moving the switch towards the captain. Several Indian pilot groups, including the Federation of Indian Pilots and the Indian Commercial Pilots Association, reject this framing vigorously. They call assigning blame before a complete investigation premature and irresponsible. US aviation expert Mary Shiovo warns against drawing conclusions from paraphrased CVR excerpts. She calls for the full transcript to be released. She also points out that the ANA 2019 incident, a software-driven switch movement, must not be ruled out simply because the TCMA mechanism doesn't match. Other software pathways may exist. The investigation is not complete. The full cockpit voice recording has not been publicly released. The wreckage examination, engine analysis, and witness testimony are ongoing. Fuel samples from the refueling tanks have been tested and found satisfactory. Both engines have been quarantined at a hangar for detailed inspection. At this stage, the AAIB has issued no recommended actions against Boeing, Air India, or GE, but explicitly states this does not mean any of them are absolved. The human cost of Flight 171 is staggering. The youngest among them, infants. Many of the others, young doctors whose rooms the aircraft plowed through. The Tata Group, parent company of Air India, announced immediate voluntary payments of 10 million rupees, approximately 120,000 USD, to each deceased passenger's family. Under the Montreal Convention, Air India's legal liability stands at approximately $180,000 per victim. The airline also announced plans to help rebuild the damaged buildings on the BJ Medical College campus, all of which were declared structurally unsafe following the crash. In the days and weeks that followed, Boeing whistleblower testimony resurfaced. Boeing whistleblowers had long alleged that some 787s, especially those delivered to Air India in the 2013 to 2014 period, had serious quality control issues during assembly. Former quality manager Cynthia Kitchens kept a handwritten list of 11 aircraft she had watched leave the Charleston factory with defects that kept her awake at night. 6 of them went to Air India. The crashed plane's registration number, VTANB, allegedly appeared on that list. Another, former quality manager John Barnett, who had spent years warning that manufacturing shortcuts at the 787 assembly plant in Charleston, South Carolina could one day cost lives, and who died in suspicious circumstances in 2024 while providing testimony against Boeing, was spoken of widely. Boeing's shares fell nearly 5% on the day of the crash. The company issued condolences and stated it was gathering more information. It has said nothing further publicly about the cause. The investigation continues. The definitive answer, whether this was a software anomaly, a mechanical failure, a terrible accident, or something far darker, has not yet been given. Until it is, the families of 260 people are left waiting. In June 2025, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner, described as safe, certified airworthy, crewed by experienced pilots, took off from Ahmedabad and never came back. The Dreamliner, once hailed as the future of aviation, now carries a question it cannot yet answer. And somewhere in that question, there is a truth the aviation world cannot afford to look away from.